Hey everybody, today is July 14th, 2020, and today we woke up to news that Mythbusters star Grant Imahara has passed away at the age of 49 from a brain aneurysm. And in this video, we're going to take a look at some of the curious things about the numerology of his passing. On this channel, we do a strong focus on the language of Gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words. The two most basic ciphers seen here on your screen. We call this English ordinal, 1 through 26. The full reduction method, or Pythagorean Gematria, uses the rules of numerology to reduce each double-digit number to a single digit. As always, we'll also use Latin and English extended Gematria. These two ciphers more closely mirror the ancient Hebrew Gematria and Greek isopsephy charts. So let's begin with the date numerology. Grant passed away yesterday, July 13th, 2020. Notice how this date has primary numerology of 60 and what we call a life lesson number of 24. Using the standard alphabetic order and reduction, the name Grant sums to 60 and 24. Grant Imahara started on Mythbusters on screen around the third season of the show. He came aboard the same time as Tori Bellici, who had already been on the series, but was credited with an on-screen role beginning the same year as Grant Imahara. They also joined together with Carrie Byron. And what's curious about this story is that last year, in August, we learned about the death of race car driver Jessie Combs during her attempt to break a world land speed record. And Jessie Combs actually spent a little time as the host on Mythbusters, having replaced Carrie Byron while she was out on maternity leave. So we're going to talk briefly about that passing as well. My post on the death of Jessie Combs is linked below. Now, what's interesting about both Grant Imahara and Tori Bellici having joined Mythbusters on the same season is that both men have full names with the same gematria, 76, 85, and 122 in our reduction methods. Notice how Tori Bellici was born on October 30th, the date written 10/30. And in numerology, since zeros are ignored, this represents the number 13. Well, 13 is a number that's very significant to the numerology of Grant Imahara. We begin with his birth date of October 23rd, 1970. Notice how this date has double numerology representing 13, both 103 and 13. He would then pass away on the 13th day of the month here in July of 2020. And notice how the 13th also had numerology of 13. Grant was known as a roboticist, having designed and built many robots for the show Mythbusters. Notice how the word roboticist sums to 130 in the alphabetic order. In Jewish gematria, his last name, Imahara, sums to 130. And using the English extended method, the name Grant Masaru Imahara sums to 1030. By virtue of Imahara being born on October 23rd, we find that Grant died a span of exactly 103 days before his upcoming birthday. Now, Grant was, of course, a star on Mythbusters, but back in 2014, I believe, he, Bellici, and Byron left the show. The three of them would later go on to star in a series called White Rabbit Project, which was a show on Netflix that only lasted one season. That season was released in its entirety on the date December 9th of 2016. And measuring from December 9th, 2016 to the date of Grant Imahara's death is a span of exactly 1,313 days. When we write the number 13 out as it's spelled, and we commonly talk about how this is a significant number of sacrifice, the phrase human sacrifice sums to 130. With the S exception, ritual human sacrifice equals 103. The number 13 has gematria of 99 and 117, with the alphabetic order reversed. Netflix sums to 99. The phrase white rabbit equals 117. Last year, Jesse Combs passed away while trying to break the world land speed record. Her death fell a span of 10 months and 17 days before Grant Imahara died. Grant died at the age of 49. Notice how this also sums to 117, like 13 and white rabbit in reverse. But what's also interesting is that 49 sums to 126 and 154. This matches the gematria of Tori Belici, Grant's co-star on Mythbusters. In the reverse order, Tori Belici sums to 171. The date that Grant passed away leaves 171 days in the year. And in the media, they've been replaying Adam Savage's tweet. He's probably the most noteworthy star of Mythbusters, along with Jamie Hyneman. Well, measuring from Grant Imahara's birthday to that of Adam Savage's, we find they were born a span of exactly 171 weeks apart. Now, curiously, Mythbusters has overlap with the word kill in gematria, both 17 and 44. Mythbusters ran for a total of 17 seasons. As we can see here on their Wikipedia page. And its debut episode was 17 years ago. In fact, just a couple days before Grant's death, it was 170 days after the 17th anniversary. Again, Mythbusters, summing to 170 in ordinal. Although Grant died yesterday, we're now learning about his death today, July 14th, which leaves 170 days in the year. And in the reverse alphabetic order, the word sacrifice gives us a 170. So as I mentioned, Adam Savage and Jamie Hyneman are the two main stars of Mythbusters. These two men were born 129 months apart. Notice how the phrase special effects sums to 129. Grant's co-star Tori Belici has birth numerology of both 129 and 57. Special effects summing to 57 in reduction as well. The show White Rabbit Project, which featured Grant and Belici together, was released on the date December 9th in 2016. And think about the date December 9th written 12/9. Again, like the value of special effects. Well, that series' debut had primary numerology of 57. Special effects 57. The name Grant Imahara summing to 57 in reduction as well. This series debuted in the year 2016, and the number 2016 represents 216 in numerology. Well, 216 is very significant. 216 is 6 times 6 times 6. In English Sumerian Gematria, which is the alphabetic order times 6, the name Grant Imahara equals 666. And on this channel, I frequently talk about the number 666 and its relation to the eclipse code. In this same cipher, sun-moon equals 666. The Earth is on a 66.6 degree tilt, its polar axis to the plane of the sun. And of course, 6 times 6 times 6, 216. The moon is 2,160 miles wide at its equator. The magic square of the sun, summing to 666. So naturally, Grant Imahara's death is related to the nearest two total solar eclipses. Now, as I explained, Grant Imahara sums to 666 in Sumerian, and this is based on his English ordinal gematria of 111. Well, if you measure from the most recent total solar eclipse to the date of Grant's death, we get exactly 1 year and 11 days, a lot like the number 111. In one of our capital letter ciphers, called Frank Baconus, which mixes capital letters in with small letters, this is also called the classroom cipher, notice how Grant Imahara has gematria of 220, similar to the number 22. Total solar eclipse equals 202 in the alphabetic order. And if you measure from his death to the date of the 2020 total solar eclipse, you get exactly 22 weeks. This is also 154 days or 5 months and 1 day. The phrase ritual sacrifice equals 154. The name Imahara summing to 51. So we pointed out how roboticist has this ordinal gematria of 130. 13 was a number that's very significant to Grant's passing. Well, notice how in reduction, roboticist equals 49. And 49 is the age at which Imahara passed away. I want to point out how the number 69 also has gematria of 49. Grant's October 23rd birthday leaves 69 days on the calendar. The word eclipse equals 69 in the alphabetic order. And he died yesterday, July 13th, which has gematria of 69. But what's so interesting about July 13th this particular year is that July 13th is the 195th day of a leap year. And using the standard alphabetic order, July 13th equals 195. Now, his death is also related to the two great American total solar eclipses, the twin eclipses, which create an X over the United States. If you measure from the 195th day of the year, which again is July 13th, which equals 195, we get exactly 195 weeks to the second Great American Total Solar Eclipse. But what's also interesting about the number 195, Imagine this number being flipped upside down. When we do that, 195 becomes the number 561. And why is 561 of particular significance? Well, notice how 561 is the 33rd triangular number. So if you add every number 1 through 33, it sums to 561. And not only does the word eclipse equal 33, but the name Imahara sums to 33. Now, on the date of the first Great American Total Solar Eclipse, notice how Imahara was 561 months old. He was also 302 days after his birthday. His full name, Grant Masaru Imahara, summing to 302. But with the end date, this is 303 days. Again, Imahara 33, eclipse 33. Of course, this ties into the crucifixion code. In the New Testament, Jesus was crucified at the age of 33, and 3 of the 4 Gospels explain that darkness fell over the sky during the crucifixion, an event which is symbolic of an eclipse, the death of God's Son, the death of the sun during an eclipse, and crucifixion of Jesus Christ, summing to 303 in ordinal. And what I'm just realizing is that this 123 in reduction is also significant. Grant Imahara was born on October 23rd, written 1023, a lot like 123. And the show Mythbusters first debuted on January 23rd, the date written 1/23. And another part of the 33 riddle, I believe, is the fact that Grant Imahara was born exactly 7 days before his partner, Tori Belici. Both of these men born in October of 1970, Grant on the 23rd, Tori on the 30th. And think about how both 1 week equals 33. These two men both are born 1 week apart. This is also 7 days, which equals 33. And in the King James Bible, God rests on the 7th day, and that's explained in the 33rd verse of the Bible. Now, the 33rd prime number is 137, and Imahara died on the date 13/7, the 13th of July. The phrase total eclipse equals 137 in the alphabetic order. And if you measure from the first Great American Total Solar Eclipse to the death of Imahara, you find it's exactly 151 weeks. The name Jesus Christ equals 151 in ordinal. So does the word Mythbuster. This Mythbuster dying 151 weeks after the eclipse. Also notice how Mythbuster equals 119. And this is interesting. Of course, a lot of people believe that Jesus' birthday was September 11th, 11/9. The name Grant equals 119 with capital letters. He and Tori both worked for ILM and Lucasfilm on the Star Wars films. Star Wars equals 119. And if you measure from the debut of Mythbusters to the death of Grant Imahara, you get 911 weeks. In my blog post, I listed some other interesting things about the numerology of this incident and how it's related to Jesse Combs, who passed away last year. I don't want to get into too much of this. I think we explained a lot about this whole, all of these alignments and how incredible they are, particularly with the number 13. Again, my post on Jesse Combs is also linked below. Her passing had a lot of very interesting numerology, and it too was related to the 2020 total solar eclipse. The name Jesse Combs equals 66. The 2020 eclipse has 66 numerology. She died exactly 6,060 days after Mythbusters debuted. The 66th prime is 317, and her death was 3 months and 17 days before the date of that eclipse. Fastest woman on 4 wheels was her nickname, which equals 317. She died driving the North American Eagle, which equals 317. Race car driver Jesse Combs, 317. Really wild how this all syncs up so perfectly. One thing I did not measure was the last date, the series finale of Mythbusters. Well, that's pretty interesting. Grant Imahara dying a span of exactly 888 days after the final episode of Mythbusters. In Jewish Gematria, 3.14 equals 888. Of course, those are the first 3 digits of pi. Eclipse summing to 314. $888 days is also 126 weeks. And as I mentioned earlier, Grant died at the age of 49, which equals 126. His co-stars named Tori Belici, 126. And of course, 126, if you flip this 6 upside down, you get a 9. Remember this series that they were both on, debuting on 12/9 of 2016? And again, you can see how these digits sort of line up. Special effects, 129. All right, guys, that'll do it for this video. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.